My name's Claire, and looking back, I reckon those days were about as good as they got. I was the head gymnastics coach at the local community center, buzzing with kids bouncing off the walls, literally. It was there I first met Tom. He wasn't hard to spot, a big guy with a loud laugh, bringing his niece Sophie to gymnastics while her mom worked late shifts. Need a hand with her gym bag? I remember him asking me on a particularly hectic Wednesday, holding up a pink backpack like it was a foreign object. Only if you can keep up, I shot back, watching with a smirk as he tried to dodge a flying foam block thrown by a hyper 5-year-old. From that day, we hit it off. Tom was easy to like, always ready with a joke and the first to volunteer for anything. He'd stick around after class, helping me tidy up while Sophie did cartwheels across the mat. So, Coach Claire, he'd start, leaning against the wall as I organized equipment. Ever thought of trading gymnastics for something less springy? I'd laugh, tossing a jump rope into its bin. And miss all this? Not a chance. What about you? Ever thought of not being a big-time finance guy? He'd shake his head, watching his niece with a smile. Nah, those numbers need me. But it's a nice change being here, you know? We talked like that, easy and open. It wasn't long before our chats turned into coffee dates, and then into dinner plans. A year later, we were married. It felt natural, like I'd known him my whole life. Our families meshed well at the wedding. My parents adored him and his folks treated me like I was one of their own. Anna, Tom's sister, was thrilled. "You're the sister I never had, Claire," she'd say, and I believed her. I never thought I'd give up coaching, but then life threw us a curveball. I got pregnant. Tom and I were over the moon, excited and a bit scared. But it meant I had to step away from the gym, at least for a while. "Babe, you sure about this?" Tom asked one night as we sat on our back porch, the summer air thick around us. "Yeah, it's not forever, just for now. For the baby," I said, resting my head on his shoulder. He kissed the top of my head, squeezing my hand. "Whatever you need, I'm here. We're in this together, right?" "Right," I agreed, but deep down, I was terrified of losing a part of myself to this new role. Still, I was determined to make it work. After all, how hard could it be? Life as a new mom was no joke. I thought coaching rowdy kids had me trained up, but this was a whole different league. When our first, Ellie, came along, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Sleepless nights, endless diapers, and feeding sessions that could last an eternity. 2 years later, Max joined the crew and doubled the chaos. "Are you sure you don't miss those backflips and somersaults?" Tom joked one evening as we collapsed on the couch, both of us worn out from another day of parental Olympics. "Trust me, the acrobatics happening in this house beat any gym routine," I shot back, trying to muster a laugh, but really, I was stretched thin. With Tom's job in finance, keeping him at the office till all hours, it often felt like I was running a one-woman show. I loved our kids to bits, but there were days I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Hair always pulled back, bags under my eyes, and wearing what I jokingly called my mom uniform of spit-up stained shirts and stretchy pants. "Mama, look." Ellie's voice would pull me from my slump as she dragged her brother, both covered in what I hoped was just mud from the garden. "Guys, seriously?" But before I could finish, they were laughing, and so was I, tired but genuinely amused. The days rolled into each other, each one a repeat of laughs, cries, spills, and the rare, quiet naps when I could sip my coffee still warm. One of those rare quiet moments, my phone buzzed. It was Anna, Tom's sister. "Hey, Claire, how's life in the kiddie jungle?" Her voice was a lifeline some days. "Surviving, just," I sighed, leaning back against the kitchen counter. "You need to get out. Come over this weekend. Mom and Dad want to see the kids, and I could use some adult conversation that doesn't involve cartoons." At Anna's, the change of scenery did wonders. The grandparents cooed over Max, and Ellie was soon lost in a game of hide-and-seek with her cousin, Sophie. I actually had a hot cup of coffee and adult conversation. It was a slice of normalcy that I hadn't realized I'd missed so much. You look like you needed this, Tom noted, his arm slipping around my shoulder as we watched our kids play. More than you know, I admitted. It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm disappearing, you know? Like I'm becoming just a mom and nothing else. Tom squeezed my shoulder. You're never just anything. You're amazing. And if you want to go back to work, or find something that's just for you, I'm behind you. It was nice to hear, but we both knew it wasn't that simple. The logistics of daycare, the cost, the schedules, our lives had orbited around his career, and squeezing in anything else felt nearly impossible. But that day, I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't lose Claire to motherhood. I'd find a way to weave the parts of my old self into this new tapestry. How exactly, I wasn't sure, but I was determined to start somewhere. Maybe a part-time gig or some freelance coaching. Something to remind me who I was before all this. Just when I thought I had a plan to claw back a bit of the old me, life threw us another curveball. I was pregnant again. When I told Tom, I saw that flash of happiness, but it flickered out fast, replaced by a tight look I'd come to know too well. That's great, babe, really great, he managed, but his voice was strained, like he was trying to convince himself. As the weeks rolled on, the reality of another baby hit hard. The fatigue was crushing this time around, and keeping up with Ellie and Max was tougher than ever. I knew I needed more help from Tom, but whenever I brought it up, it turned sour fast. Tom, I need you to pick up a bit more around here. I'm struggling, I said one evening as we faced a mountain of unwashed dishes and laundry. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Claire, I'm slammed at work. When I get home, I need to rest, not start a second shift with the kids screaming. His words stung, and I bit back tears. It's not like I'm having a blast here. We're supposed to be in this together, remember? He didn't respond, just turned away, his silence a thick wall between us. As my belly grew, so did the distance in our home. Tom started staying away longer, business trips stacking up back to back. When he was home, he'd vanish into his office, door shut, the kids' knocks going unanswered. Ellie, who'd always been Daddy's little girl, tugged at my sleeve one day, her voice small. Why doesn't Daddy come out to play with us anymore? I scooped her up, holding her close. Daddy's just really tired, sweetie. Work's got him all wound up. But excuses were wearing thin, even to my own ears. The day our third, little Ava, was born, I thought maybe things would turn a corner. Maybe seeing her tiny face, holding her, would snap Tom out of whatever funk he'd fallen into. But if anything, it got worse. Coming home from the hospital, I was met with chaos. Toys everywhere, dishes piled high, and Tom, asleep on the couch, oblivious. Tom, wake up. I can't do this on my own, I said, exhaustion seeping into every word. He blinked awake, irritable. What do you want me to do, Claire? I'm not the one who wanted another kid right now. His words felt like a slap. We're supposed to be a team. They're your kids too. He just shrugged, turning back to the TV, the volume going up as if to drown out the needs of his own family. I tried to keep the peace, swallowing down my frustration for the sake of the kids. I'd hush them, shushing their giggles and games. Let's try to keep it down, Ellie, Max. Daddy's resting, I'd whisper, even as resentment brewed hot and heavy in my chest. Night after night, I'd lie awake, Ava in my arms, listening to the silence of the house. Tom's distance was a constant echo, his presence more ghost than husband. That hapless day started like any other, with the usual chaos of breakfast and getting the kids ready. Tom had left last night, muttering about another urgent business trip. I was knee-deep in laundry when the phone rang. Hello, this is Claire, I answered, balancing the phone between my shoulder and ear. Mrs. Thompson, this is Gary, Tom's director. I need to speak with Tom urgently, but he's not answering his phone or emails. Is he available? Gary's voice was edged with frustration. I paused, a frown creasing my forehead. He's on a business trip, I said, the words tasting odd even as they left my mouth. A business trip? Gary's confusion mirrored my own. That can't be right. His job doesn't require travel. In fact, he took time off again just the other day to help at home with the baby, he said. My heart thumped painfully against my ribs. Oh, there must be some mistake, Gary. I'll let him know you called. I hung up, feeling the room spin slightly. The revelation hit me hard. There were no business trips. Where had Tom been going all this time? My mind raced as I pieced together his frequent absences, his disinterest. It all made a terrible sort of sense now. I was still reeling from the shock when Tom came home later that week. I watched him, a stranger in my husband's skin, as he tossed his bag down and headed straight for the shower. Hey, dinner will be ready in 10 minutes, I called out mechanically. Great, I'm starved, he shouted back, the sound of the shower drowning out any further conversation. My hands shook as I picked up his phone from the dresser. It wasn't locked. It took me only a moment to find what I feared: messages, dozens of them, and photos with his secretary, laughing, kissing, more intimate than I could bear. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I forwarded everything to my phone, then erased any sign of my snooping. When Tom emerged, toweling off his hair, he was the picture of normalcy. Long day? I asked, my voice hollow to my own ears. Yeah, just the usual crap, he muttered, flopping down at the dinner table. Why are the kids so loud today? Can't they just keep it down? They're just kids, Tom. They're playing, I said quietly, watching him push his food around his plate. I just need some peace, Claire, he snapped, pushing back from the table and standing. I'm heading to bed. I'm beat. Sure, get some rest, I managed to say, my voice steady, despite the storm raging inside me. He paused at the foot of the stairs, turning to look at me as if he wanted to say more, but then shook his head and continued up. I sat at the table long after he'd gone, the images from his phone burned into my brain. The pain was raw, a gaping wound where trust had once lived. How could he? How long had it been going on? I knew I had to confront him, but not yet. I needed a plan. For me, for the kids. I couldn't just let this slide. But for tonight, I had to pretend everything was normal, for the sake of peace, for the sake of my racing heart and shaking hands. Every day, the weight of Tom's deceit pressed down harder, and every night I lay awake plotting my next move. With my birthday approaching, a plan began to form, a plan that felt more like a desperate need for truth than anything else. Mommy, are we going to have a big party for your birthday? Ellie asked one morning, her eyes wide with the excitement only a child can muster for birthdays. Yeah, a big one, I confirmed, forcing enthusiasm into my voice as I sipped my lukewarm coffee. As the day drew closer, I sent out invites to all our relatives, crafting each word with care, not hinting at the storm that was about to break. Tom, meanwhile, seemed indifferent, buried in his phone, murmuring about work pressures. It's your birthday, Claire. Do whatever makes you happy, he said distractedly when I told him about the party plans. Will you be there? I asked, knowing his answer, but needing to hear it anyway. Of course, he replied without looking up from his screen. But just one day before the party, he dropped the bombshell. Claire, something's come up. I need to go to New York tonight, urgent business. His words were rushed, his eyes avoiding mine. On the eve of my birthday? Really, Tom? My voice cracked, anger seeping through the cracks of my composed facade. I don't have a choice. You know how it is, he said, packing his bag with a haste that spoke of guilt. Yeah, I know exactly how it is, I muttered under my breath. Have a safe trip. He leaned in, his kiss more a formality than a gesture of affection, then he was gone. That evening, the house felt emptier than ever. I watched the door close behind him, a part of me relieved that I didn't have to pretend for one more second in his presence. Then, turning back to the chaos of party preparations, I put on my game face. Ellie and Max were buzzing with excitement, unaware of the tension that hummed in the air. Mom, where do you want the balloons? Max asked, dragging in a bag full of decorations. Let's put some over here, and some by the window, I directed, helping them untangle the strings. why isn't Dad here to help? Ellie's question was innocent, but it stung like salt in a fresh wound. He's really busy, honey. But he wishes he could be. I lied smoothly, tucking a loose strand of her hair behind her ear. The lie tasted bitter, and with each repetition, my resolve hardened. I needed, to expose Tom for who he really was. Not for revenge, but for closure, for the truth to be as clear to everyone else as it was now to me. As night fell, and the kids finally settled down, I looked around at our home, decorated with streamers and balloons, ready for a celebration that felt more like a showdown. I checked my phone one last time, no messages from Tom. The morning of my birthday dawned bright and clear, as if the universe hadn't gotten the memo about the storm brewing in my heart. By mid-morning, our house was bustling with family, balloons bobbing in corners, and the smell of baked goods filling the air. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," my mom greeted me, wrapping me in a warm hug and handing me a beautifully wrapped box. "We're so proud of you." "Thanks, Mom," I replied, managing a smile as I set the gift on the table crowded with other presents. Tom's parents arrived next, his mom clutching a large bouquet of flowers. "Where's Tom, dear?" she asked almost immediately, looking around as if he might be hiding. I swallowed, my stomach churning. "Actually, I need to talk to all of you about Tom," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling inside. The room quieted, all eyes on me. "Can we sit down in the living room? There's something important I need to share." Once everyone settled, the weight of their attention felt like a physical pressure. Tom isn't here because he lied about being on a business trip. He's been lying about a lot of things. Murmurs of confusion rippled through the room. I held up my phone, the screen displaying a photo of Tom with his secretary, closer than colleagues should be. For years, I believed we were struggling together with the pressures of family and work, I continued, the room hanging on every word. But Tom has been leading a double life. This is his mistress, and they've been together for a long time. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Tom's mother put a hand over her mouth, tears filling her eyes. His sister, Anna, reached out, squeezing my hand as if to pass me strength. I've tried to be the perfect wife and mother, believing we were partners. But Tom hasn't been a partner to me or a father to our children in any way that counts, I said, my voice breaking. I can't stay in this house anymore. Tom's dad, a stern man who'd always intimidated me, stood up abruptly. This house, he began, his voice deep and firm, was always under my name, a safety net for my grandchildren. Tom has disgraced not only his family, but himself. His wife, still tearful, nodded. What are you suggesting, dear? She asked, looking between her husband and me. I suggest we sell this house. I'll buy a new one closer to us. Claire and the kids can start fresh, without the shadow of my son's betrayal. Tom's sister chimed in, her voice fierce. And I'm just down the road. You won't be alone, Claire. We'll help out however we can. My parents, who had been quietly supportive until now, agreed. We'll pitch in too. Whatever you need to make a new home, my dad said, his voice gruff with suppressed emotion. The support was overwhelming, tears streaming down my face not just from the pain, but also from the unexpected solidarity. Thank you, I managed to say. For everything. I thought I'd have to face this all alone. No, honey, my mother-in-law said, getting up to hug me tightly. Your family. And family sticks together, especially during times like these. By the time everyone left, the house felt different, emptier, yet somehow full of potential. I put the kids to bed, their innocent faces a reminder of why I had to fight for a better future. The sale of the old house happened so fast it made my head spin. Before I knew it, Tom's parents had purchased a new home for me and the kids, just a few blocks from his sister, Anna. Mom, this place is huge. Max exclaimed, running through the empty living room as soon as we stepped inside. Ellie and Ava followed suit, their laughter and footsteps echoing off the walls. It's perfect, isn't it? Anna smiled, placing an arm around my shoulders as we watched the kids explore. Yes, more than I could have hoped for, I replied, my voice thick with emotion. Over the next few days, the move was all hands on deck. My parents and in-laws, along with Anna, helped pack up our old lives and set up new beginnings. Boxes were filled, moved, and unpacked at a pace that felt dizzying. One of the last things I did was pack Tom's belongings. They were fewer than I expected, memories I was more than ready to let go of. I shipped them off to his office along with a detailed letter to his director, exposing not just his personal failings, but his professional deceit. The very day the courier confirmed delivery of Tom's things, my phone rang. It was Tom, and he was livid. Claire, what the hell do you think you're doing? I can't get into the house. What's going on? His voice was a mix of confusion and rage. Tom, that's not our house anymore. It's been sold. I thought you'd be with your girlfriend, I said calmly, a sense of empowerment growing with every word. You can't just kick me out. Where are my kids? What about my stuff? He barked back. Your things are at your office. As for the kids, they're safe and happy, far from this mess you've created. I responded, my tone firm. The line went dead, and later, Anna told me Tom had shown up at their parents' home, only to be turned away. He was shouting about rights and fairness, but Mom and Dad were clear. They've seen enough, she said over the phone. And his job? I asked, curiosity getting the better of me. Anna sighed. They've transferred him to another branch. And yes, the secretary was let go. As I processed everything, the weight of the past months seemed to lift slightly. For the first time in what felt like forever, I looked forward to the future. After filing for divorce and going through the legalities, the court granted me not only the divorce but also alimony and compensation, recognizing the hardship and betrayal I endured. It wasn't just about the money, it was validation that I deserved better. Now, I'm rebuilding life in our new home, a safe haven filled with laughter and the pitter-patter of little feet. I returned to coaching gymnastics in the mornings, reigniting my passion and reconnecting with the community. The joy of teaching, of shaping young lives, infused me with energy and purpose. Mama, look what Grandma and Grandpa got us. Ellie shouted one evening, dragging a huge box into the living room with Max's help. What's this now? I laughed, watching them tear into the package with giddy excitement. It's the new building blocks set we saw at the store. Max exclaimed, pieces of brightly colored blocks spilling onto the floor. Your grandparents spoil you rotten, I said, though my heart swelled with gratitude for both my parents and Tom's parents, who, despite everything, remained a steadfast support system. Can we build a castle? Ava asked, her small hands eager to join in. Only if I can be the queen, I teased, settling down on the floor with them. Our evenings were like this, simple, joyful, and full of love. As I watched my children play, I often reflected on how far we had come. Later, after tucking them into bed, I'd sit with a cup of tea, enjoying the calm of the night. It was during one of these quiet moments that Anna called. Hey, Claire, just checking in. How are you guys doing? She asked, her voice always bringing a smile to my face. We're good, Anna. Really good. The kids are happy, and I'm actually enjoying life again, I replied, a truth that felt new and wonderful. That's so great to hear. And Tom? Her tone was cautious, knowing this was still a tender subject. He's with his mistress, from what I heard. Struggling, fighting over money issues because of the alimony and all, I said, not without a twinge of bitterness that quickly faded. But, honestly, Anna, I don't feel sorry for him. Not anymore. My parents and Tom's had gone above and beyond, helping with the kids, dropping by with groceries, or just calling to say hello. Their love for their grandchildren was unmeasurable, and I was deeply thankful for their presence. Each morning, as I headed to the gym, the sun rising in the background, I felt a sense of accomplishment. I was doing it, balancing work, motherhood, and personal growth. I was more than just surviving, I was thriving. The kids, too, were adjusting well. They loved the new house, their schools, and their friends. They were resilient, bouncing back from the upheaval with the fearlessness of youth. And as for me, the evenings were my sanctuary. Once the dishes were done and the kids' laughter had dimmed to sleepy murmurs, I'd sit back and soak in the peace. I'd sometimes catch myself in the mirror, a smile touching my lips. The reflection showed a woman transformed by trials, but not defined by them.